Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're exploring something really fundamental, that deep link between memory, our emotions, and taste, how certain flavors just transport us.
Oh, absolutely. It's more than just food, isn't it? Sometimes a smell or even thinking about a specific dish can trigger this incredibly powerful wave of nostalgia, maybe even grief. It's deeply personal.
And that really sets the stage for our listener, June. She's on this quest, you could say, to recreate her late mother's cooking. She cooks all the time, trying to capture that specific flavor.
Yeah, she told us she just wants to be wrapped in that warmth again. It's a beautiful but also painful goal. And she keeps hitting this wall. The taste just isn't quite it. Leads to a lot of frustration.
Totally understandable. She's even trying, sensory cues, listening to Jiang Hui's raining sound, that really melancholic song, while she cooks, hoping to maybe connect with the memory that way.
But the taste itself remains elusive. The memory's perfect, maybe too perfect, and the technique just can't seem to bridge that gap. It's heartbreaking, really.
So feeling stuck, June turned to divination, to the I Ching, for some guidance. And the result she got is what we're diving into today, the Dayu Zhijian hexagram.
Right. And our mission here is to use that hexagram, that ancient wisdom, as a kind of roadmap. We want to help June move from that feeling of loss, that deep longing Sinian, towards mastery in the kitchen, and ultimately some emotional peace.
So it's about synthesis, really.
Right.
Connecting memory and technique.
Exactly. The hexagram gives surprisingly practical steps for doing just that.
Okay, let's dig into it then. Dayu Zhijian. What's the core message here? How does it frame June's challenge?
Well, you have to look at the two parts. Dayu, that means great possession or abundance.
Okay.
So for June, this basically says she already has the crucial stuff inside. The rich memory, the emotional connection, that deep knowledge of what her mother's cooking should taste like. It's like her internal pantry is fully stocked.
But hang on, isn't that abundance, that perfect memory, also kind of the problem? Like, it sets an impossible standard. Is the memory itself getting in the way?
That's a really sharp question. And yes, absolutely. That internal richness, if it's not managed, can become a source of anxiety, of pressure, which is where the second part, Jin, comes in.
Jin. Okay, what's that about?
Jin means advancement, progress, rising up. It represents the step of turning that internal feeling, the Dayu, into something tangible, something external, a result you can actually taste and share.
Ah, I see. So Dayu is the internal resource, the memory, the potential, and Jin is the action, the method, the successful making of the dish.
Precisely. June has the what Dayu, but she needs the how. Jen, she needs structure, method, emotional alignment, you could say, to turn that powerful memory into a reproducible taste.
And the divination poem that came with the hexagram, it speaks to this too, right?
It does, beautifully. One line says, "Heaven's way is at its peak, virtue shines brightly," which is like an affirmation for June. Yes, your memory, your inner resource, it's powerful, it's valid.
It acknowledges the Dayu part.
Exactly. And then another line really points towards the Jin part, the practical effort needed. Silk and treasures piled high reveal blessings.
Silken treasures, so suggesting accumulated effort.
Yes, it's telling her that all the practice, the trial and error, even the failures, they aren't just failures. They're like data points. Each attempt is like adding another piece of silk, another treasure to the pile. Eventually, that accumulated effort, that meticulous work will lead to the result, the blessing.
So stop seeing failed attempts as just discouraging and start seeing them as like necessary steps, building blocks.
Exactly. It's about shifting from just feeling the grief internally to channeling that energy into methodical outward action that creates something real and shareable.
Okay, that's a really helpful framework. So the hexagram doesn't just diagnose, it gives a path. It outlines these 4 stages, connecting the emotional journey with actual cooking advice.
It does. And stage 1 is likely where June feels she is right now. The hexagram calls it, sorrow dwells within the belly, worry hides in the body.
Wow. That's visceral. The idea that sorrow is physically in her as she cooks.
It really is. We interpret that as the grief acting almost like a hidden ingredient, like hidden salt maybe. It messes things up.
How so?
Well, think about it. If you're cooking while feeling intense sadness or anxiety, or you're constantly comparing every chop to this perfect ideal in your head, your judgment gets clouded.
Yeah, you might oversalt because you're crying, or maybe your hand isn't steady, or you lose track of the heat.
Exactly that. The emotion itself interferes with the basic mechanics, the technical skill needed. It sort of sabotages the dish before it even gets going.
So what's the advice for this stage? How does she cook through that sorrow without just suppressing it?
The guidance suggests what we're calling no pressure practice. It means for a while she needs to let go of the goal of making the perfect finished dish.
Okay, so what does she do instead?
Focus on mastering just one single step, repeatedly, completely isolated. Maybe it's just getting the garlic and onions fried to that perfect golden brown her mom always achieved. Or maybe it's just nailing the consistency of the base stock.
So break it down. Take the emotional weight off the final product by focusing on just one small technical piece.
Precisely. Isolate the technique from the overwhelming emotional stakes of the whole dish.
Makes sense. And after that, what's stage 2?
Stage 2 is described as tears and sighs over incidents, value being able to manage afterward.
Right, the messy middle. Failures are going to happen, frustration, sighs, tears. The key phrase sounds like manage afterward, shan hao.
Exactly. This is crucial. When things go wrong, the broth is bland, it's too salty, the texture is off. The reaction shouldn't be despair or giving up.
Okay.
The directive, shan hao, means dealing with the consequences constructively. It means transforming that sigh, that tear, into useful information. This is where June needs to shift her mindset.
Shift from what to what?
From being the grieving daughter trying to recapture a feeling to becoming more like a culinary scientist, a detective almost.
A culinary scientist. But how does she do that without losing the warmth, the whole point of the memory? Doesn't that sound a bit cold?
Not if you see the memory as the source of the data. The goal isn't to be cold, it's to be precise in service of the memory. This stage requires meticulous record keeping.
Okay, so write everything down.
Everything, exactly how much salt, exactly how long it simmered, which brand of soy sauce seemed closer. Did mom always fry the scallions before the ginger or after? Use the precision of science to honor the details held within the memory.
Turning size into specs. Got it. Okay, so after navigating failures with data, what's stage 3? This one sounds intriguing. Substituting a donkey for a horse opens a new chapter.
Yes, Yiludai Makai Jinju. This stage is all about flexibility, radical flexibility, maybe.
What does that mean in the kitchen?
It means June has to accept that a perfect 100% identical replication might actually be impossible, and that's okay.
Like impossible.
Well, maybe her mother used a specific type of aged oil, Lao Yu, that June can't find. Or maybe the unique smoky flavor came from a wood-fired stove, the chai hua wei, which she doesn't have. Some elements might just be lost to time.
So the horse, the original perfect ingredient or method is gone. She needs to find a donkey, a substitute.
Exactly, a stand-in. But the key is the substitute isn't just random. It needs to achieve the same emotional resonance, the same feeling as the original. The goal shifts.
Shifts from exact replication to what? Sensory reconstruction.
Beautifully put, yes. It's about reconstructing the sensory experience, not necessarily the exact chemical profile. And to do that, she needs to practice flavor decomposition.
Flavor decomposition. Break that down for us.
Okay, so June needs to analyze the memory of the taste. What were its core dimensions? Was it salty, sweet, sour? Was there a specific aromatic quality? A deep umami? What kind of umami?
So instead of trying to find that exact missing aged oil, she asks, what flavor component did that oil contribute?
Precisely. Let's say the missing element was a deep, smoky, slightly sweet undertone from that wood fire. She can't replicate the fire, but she could experiment with substitutes that provide smokiness or deep sweetness.
Like what?
Maybe tiny amounts of smoked paprika or smoked salt? Maybe roasting the onions longer for deeper caramelization? Perhaps a dash of a dark, complex vinegar or a little toasted sesame oil to mimic that aged depth? It's about identifying the core sensory note and finding a new way to hit it.
So you're rebuilding the flavor profile piece by piece, using available ingredients, focusing on the effect rather than the original source. That takes some real thought.
It does. It requires analyzing the memory itself very carefully. Which leads us, finally, to stage 4, stability.
The destination, the hexagram calls it. Mastering measure and rhythm brings peace. Yes. This is where all the practice, the record-keeping, the clever substitutions, it all comes together. June reaches a point of consistency, of stability.
She's mastered the quantities, the timing, and, crucially, her own emotional rhythm during the process. She can now reliably produce the dish, the taste that connects her to her mother, without being overwhelmed or thrown off course by the grief.
That piece, that ZGU do, sounds like the real prize. It's not just about the food anymore.
It isn't. It means she can finally enjoy the taste securely. The food transforms from being a painful symbol of loss into a living inheritance, something she has mastered and can now share.
So what's the final action step for this stage?
It's very concrete. Create a final, durable family recipe card. Document the successful, stable version with exact measurements, steps, maybe even notes about the substitutions that worked.
Solidify the success.
And manage the emotions consciously. It's okay to feel the connection, maybe even shed a tear after tasting the success. But during the actual cooking, the aim is that stable, focused mood needed for technical accuracy. Maintain the peace.
This whole four-stage process really highlights that connection you mentioned earlier. The internal memory, the dayu, has to fuel the external technique, the jin.
It's all about bridging that gap, linking the abstract warmth of memory to the concrete mechanics of cooking.
So, based on all this, what are some key techniques, practical things June can do to help synthesize these two aspects?
Okay, drawing from the hexagram's guidance, we've got a few. First is something we call emotional externalization.
Making the abstract concrete again.
Exactly. June should literally write down sensory details tied to the memory. Not just ingredients, but things like, Mom always hummed this tune, or she used this specific hand motion when stirring, or the kitchen smelled like X on rainy days.
And how does that translate to cooking steps?
She connects those details directly to actions. So instead of just add ginger, it might become add the ginger after the garlic, just like she did, letting it sizzle for 10 seconds. It embeds the memory into the physical process.
Yeah, that makes sense.
What else?
A segmented practice, which we touched on earlier, really commit to breaking the dish down.
Right. The base, the main flavor, the finishing aroma. Yes. Practice each unit separately, maybe 3 times each. This lowers the stakes dramatically for any single attempt and builds muscle memory for the components without the pressure of the whole dish potentially failing. It reduces the chance of emotion causing a major error.
And you mentioned the ritual aspect. How does she create the right mood without getting overwhelmed?
The ritual. Yishigen, this is important for grounding. Before she even starts cooking, establish a small, intentional routine. Maybe it's lighting a particular candle or playing just a snippet of that song briefly.
Just enough to connect.
Exactly. Enough to summon the right emotional foundation for the memory, to set the intention. But then consciously shift into that focused, stable mindset needed for the technical work. It's about invoking the connection, then managing the intensity during the process.
Okay, one more crucial thing. Memory bias. How does June know when she thinks she's finally nailed it that it's actually right and not just wishful thinking because she wants it so badly?
Excellent point. Memory is so subjective, especially when layered with love and loss. This is where objective, external feedback becomes vital.
Bringing in outside tasters.
Yes, we strongly recommend she invite 1 or 2 trusted people, ideally someone who might also remember her mother's cooking, to taste the dish once she feels close. Get their honest, gentle feedback.
That helps calibrate her own perception against something more objective. It ensures the jin, the outward result, is validated.
Precisely. It makes the success more concrete, less purely internal.
Okay, this is incredibly helpful. So let's pull it all together. Based on the hexagram and our deep dive, what are the final concrete steps June can take starting now?
All right, 5 key steps. 1, draft that detailed memory checklist. Ingredients, steps, mom's habits, sensory details. Get it all down on paper.
2, commit to that segmented practice, base, main flavor, aroma. Practice each separately, multiple times, and record everything like a scientist.
3, actively experiment with the substitution method. Pick one tricky flavor element she's missing and try out at least 2 different donkey alternatives based on flavor decomposition. Record the result.
4, implement an emotional regulation strategy. That simple 3-minute deep breathing exercise before starting to cook every single time. Aim for calm focus.
And 5, once she achieves a version that gets positive external feedback, create that lasting heirloom recipe card. Write down the exact successful recipe and consciously practice that positive pre-cooking ritual to maintain the peace.
Wow. June's journey is really such a powerful example of weaving together emotional healing with a very practical, hands-on skill. It's not just about cooking, it's about repair, connection.
It really is. And what the hexagram teaches us here is that mama's flavor isn't locked solely in the ingredients. It's a combination of time, technique, habit, and yes, deep feeling. The act of patiently, methodically integrating her emotion with technique is the path forward.
So the strength comes from the process itself, guided by this ancient wisdom.
She's moving from being a passive recipient of grief over the lost flavor to actively becoming its steward, its preserver.
It sounds like the ultimate goal isn't necessarily a flawless 100% replication. which might be impossible anyway. It's finding that stability, that peace, the zhiji you do within the act of remembering and creating.
That's it. That stability is the key. That's what allows the warmth of the original memory to be truly tasted again. But this time, it's an inheritance she holds, not a ghost she's chasing.
And perhaps the most empowering thought from the hexagram.
Is that the capacity for that stability, June? That great possession is already within you?
A powerful place to end. Thank you for joining us for the deep dive. We'll see you next time.